Hey guys, Stephanie Mitchell here. I am an online marketing coach for beauty business owners, and today I'm talking about how to have an insanely good guest experience for all of your new clients so they cannot wait to book with you again. And today I am chatting with my friend and an incredible business coach, Dawn Bradley. Dawn Bradley is a hairstylist, salon owner, educator. She's built careers in London and Australia, and now she teaches hairstylists how to build a business stress-free, building your confidence and making more money. She is an amazing person. So when it comes to stress, Dawn has seen it, been there, done that when it comes to having stress in your business. In fact, she used to be a people pleaser who had little boundaries in her business, and it totally burned her out. Now she's chatting with us about how to make sure that your clients have an amazing experience, an amazing first impression, and continued impressions with you without burning yourself out trying to please them all the time. You are going to absolutely love this interview if you want to create an experience that really sets you apart from other salons and really attracts clients to you, but you're not really sure how to do that yet. Also, you are going to find so much inspiration here if you are a recovering people pleaser. If you feel like you sometimes lack confidence in what you do in the salon, and that leads to you saying yes to clients all the time, and sometimes that backfires on you. Or maybe you fall into this category. You have clients that come in and sometimes they're just not a good fit. And you want to make sure that the clients that are coming into your chair are the perfect clients, and you want to build your career with those type of clients. And finally, you are going to love this if you would like to get your guests to come in repeatedly. So Dawn is also going to share her tips and strategies for making sure that your clients book with you again and again. So if you like this interview, I would love if you could like the video below and subscribe to my channel, because you can get all of my updates with salon marketing tips and strategies whenever I post them. So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Dawn. Hey, Dawn, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so happy to be chatting with you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, Stephanie. Thank you so much for inviting me back to hang out with you.
Yay! I know we chatted, I think maybe 2 years ago, and I learned so much from our chat. And I'm so excited to have you here again to talk all about new experiences for guests inside the salon. It's something that is so important, and I know I'm going to learn so much from you. So before we get into it, can you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your business and how you help and support the beauty industry.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, I'm Dawn Bradley. I am born and raised Canadian. I live in Calgary, and I've been in the beauty industry for 20 years this May, which is so unreal to me. I never thought I would even this wasn't like a thought in my mind growing up that I wanted to be a hairstylist or in the beauty industry. I was really encouraged to go to university. But within the first couple of years, I loved it, and I could see the potential of creating a really lucrative career out of it. So over the last 20 years, I've worked as a commission stylist. I've worked on 3 different continents for some of the best hairstylists all over the world. In 2010, I went out on my own and started my own business. And I felt really alone. And that's what's brought me to where I am now, where I help beauty professionals earn 6 figures stress-free, because I had no idea how to do that. I knew how to work really hard and burn myself out. So it's really rewarding now to be an educator in the industry, helping people reach financial goals without burning out and stressing out.
Yeah, that is so important. Like taking care of yourself and actually running a business the way that you want to. I think that all of us as business owners go through that, where we kind of start to realize that our business is taking too much out of us. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you see are commonly causing that stress with stylists or, anybody that has a business?
Yeah, the number one thing I see in service-based industry in general is that the beautiful thing is that they care so deeply about this really deep, especially on one-on-one services. We become there's this really deep relational connection that we have with our clients, which then turns into people-pleasing tendencies and a lack of boundaries because from a place of caring. And so I would say that's the best thing and the worst thing tied together is that we creative service providers tend to care so deeply, where we tend to sabotage ourselves and our business but convince ourselves we're doing it for the good of others. And so lack of boundaries, lack of communication, and we end up getting frustrated and resentful, but we don't even want to admit that to ourselves because we just care so much. So it's like a double-edged sword that I see happening a lot.
Yeah, I totally see that. And I'm a huge people pleaser as well. I want
Mhm.
everybody to like me and I want to give everyone the best experience. So I totally understand that. And I think that that's actually a really good kind of way to angle our conversation today about the experience that guests have inside your salon and with your services of how to give them the best experience while also keep caring for yourself and setting those boundaries that are so important. So let's keep that in mind. Like, keep bringing up that, okay, we want to give those guests that amazing experience, but we also want to like honor ourselves and be respectful of the way that we want to run our business. So I love that angle on this.
Yeah. Like
So
actually learning that no can be saying no can be a good thing. And I used to think that you only could answer a question with yes. So I'd get annoyed with people asking me questions and being like, wait, I can say no. And no can be like the best thing for a client. Like, no, I can't squeeze you in because I won't do a good job if I only have 30 minutes instead of an hour and a half.
yeah, totally true. Yeah, setting boundaries and having that and saying no when appropriate can actually lead to a better
Mhm.
experience for both you and the guests. That's
Absolutely.
okay. So let's chat about the new guest experience. The reason I was chatting with you before about this, Don, like the reason I want to talk about this is because I one of the big things that I teach is about advertising and promotion to get your name out there and attract new clients. And that's like that big exciting thing that people always want to learn about and always talk about. But then there's that other part, which is, okay, what about when you actually do have this new client and how do you give them the best experience so that they keep coming back and they just, fall in love with you and everything that you do. So that's why I wanted to chat with you about, the salon client experience. So can you tell us how you treat clients as a stylist or as a beauty professional? Why is how you treat clients and why is that client experience so important for growing your business?
Oh my gosh. I feel like so because I love that you do advertising. Like first impressions are so important, but like second and third and fourth impressions are just as important. And I love that you called it when they come in for an experience, because inside of my program Record Business, I talk about it's not an appointment, it's an experience. And you, whether they're brand new to you the first time or they've been coming to you for 10 years, that consistency and experience needs to stay there, because the moment that people feel like they've been put on the back burner, or the moment that like a new client like sees your ad is like, this person gets me, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go book an appointment with them, and they show up and it's not the same, and it's like, whoa, this like looked so good and I was so wowed, but like this person's like looks like they just rolled out of bed and they have stinky breath, or I don't know, I'm just like trying to throw it, but like if the experience doesn't line up to the initial first impression, it doesn't matter how many people you get in. You could be just getting I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to collect all my thoughts. It can be easy to get people in once, but it's even easier and it creates less work to get them coming back. And so why create more work of always trying to get new people in because nobody's staying? And if you give a really good wow factor experience, go above and beyond, where I say like the experience, the difference between an appointment and experience is an appointment is what they came for, and experience goes above and beyond. So I used to have a candy buffet in my salon. I served chai tea lattes and my dog came to work with me. That has nothing to do with getting a hair appointment, but that wowed people. And I can't tell you how many times like the candy and my dog got Instagrammed and I got tagged in it,
I
not their
bet.
hair. And so that kind of like wow factor of really like going like, what sets me apart from anyone else they could go get this service done by. And I really think that's the experience part. And I love that you said that again, because creating an experience that people will drive an hour out of their way to come see you because of XYZ that has nothing to do with the actual service you're giving them. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I've seen statistics that say it's 10 times, I think 10 times, if not 20, less expensive to keep a new client than to constantly go out searching for new clients. And if you do not give them that experience, you're going to just be constantly churning and struggling to actually build a loyal client base.
Absolutely. I have this, it's called the client attraction playbook, and it's like a free download, and had it like in 7 steps, how to build your clientele. And the first 3 steps are only the ones that you have to do. And the last 4 are like autopilot. Because once you get people in and you have that mastered, then your clients start doing the work for you. And so if you're creating exceptional experiences, I think that's what happens is people kind of think, oh, I need to attract people, and they forget about the follow up and the follow through. And then you're constantly just trying to attract people. But if you can just attract people when you need to, and like on like a consistent basis, but then this like whole thing over here is working for you, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to link to the client attraction playbook below because that's such a good resource. Okay, so let me ask you, Dawn, in your experience working with all of these hairstylists and beauty professionals, where do people tend to go wrong when working with new clients, especially like when someone first comes in the door and like that whole experience? Like, what are some common pitfalls that you see?
So yeah, I love that you asked this. So I think the biggest thing I see is, and the biggest thing I hear from service providers is they don't feel confident enough, and so they don't establish trust and authority off the bat. And if you don't start out with trust and authority, then people are going to try to bulldoze you, bully you. Like I'm sure we've all experienced like a customer or client that's like I know I have like tried to tell me that they knew hair better than I did. And when I was like a fresh new stylist, and I'm speaking from my experience as a hairstylist, but this applies to anyone, I kind of went, oh, okay. Cause that people pleaser, I just want to make them happy instead of standing in my confidence and being like, hey, I'm the it's not like saying like, I'm the professional and I know what I'm talking about, but you can communicate that in the way you hold yourself, in the way you speak with them when you go, okay, I hear that you want to take your black box dye hair to platinum blonde today. I think that's an awesome idea. I need to be transparent with you about the fact that chemistry wise, it's not possible. And I wish it was. And I think like younger Dawn and earlier hairstylist Dawn would have been like, oh, okay. And like gone and rushed to the back. And so it's like trading the like wanting to make people like me. And actually, I always say you're not a people pleaser, you're a people disappointer, because I would say yes to things that weren't actually possible because I'm like, oh, if I can make them happy right now, they'll like me better. But then I just disappoint them with not being able to deliver later. And so learning to like build that trust and authority with like communicating clearly, educating them on what's possible and what's not possible, like breaking their heart and their dreams a little bit, but also like being like, I think this is great and we can work towards this. It's just not possible today. Building that kind of relationship actually has them liking you more. And so getting out of that, like, I need to say yes to people please them. And it's like, no, I need to be honest with them, and I'll actually be the people pleaser, because when I'm honest and I educate them, I build that trust, that authority, which creates loyalty.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that that's so something that we can all relate with. I think especially with like dealing with new clients and you want to impress them so much, you want to just give them the ultimate and you want to say yes to everything. It's so
Yeah.
tempting to want to just satisfy everything, but then they might end up being disappointed.
I'd always like remember so many times being like, yeah, that sounds great for your hair color. And then I'd go into the back and be like, this is like actually legit not possible. I just told them that something had happened that like scientifically cannot happen, but I'd still hope for it because I thought I I had this deep insecurity of thinking if I told them it wasn't possible because I didn't know how to educate them, that they would assume I wasn't good at my job. Instead of being like, hey, like I said before, like, hey, I love this, but I need to be honest. Like I can show up and do the best. And even then it won't happen.
Yeah, I think it's all about confidence, like you said. And that kind of, do you think that it's just a question of time? Like it just takes time to develop that confidence? Or is there something that people can do to kind of boost their confidence, maybe even if they're new or if they've been lacking confidence in what they do?
Yeah, I love this. I actually, just before we recording this, I was recording a podcast for my podcast about this and going like, I don't believe in fake it till you make it, but it takes practice and it takes like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book, The Alter Ego. Have you heard of that book?
No, I don't think so.
It's actually he's originally from Alberta, but he lives in New York, but he talks about like kind of like Beyonce's Sasha Fierce. Do you know that? Do you know that story where she like didn't feel comfortable dancing like seductively on the stage? So she like created this alter ego so that she could be more comfortable. And then all of a sudden she's like, I don't need to turn into Sasha Fierce anymore because now I am Sasha Fierce. And so I always say like zip on that suit of confidence and try it on. Even if you don't feel confident, like kind of put on this false confidence and kind of pretend like you are confident. And then all of a sudden one day you won't have to pretend like you're confident anymore. You will have become it. So that whole like alter ego idea of like, I always say like zoom into who you want to be 10 years from now and let them like come be present now. Show up as that person 10 years from now and you might shake, your voice might like crack and you might be sweating like crazy, but eventually all of a sudden you don't have to pretend to be somebody else or try and like take someone else's confidence. All of a sudden you got it. But it's really uncomfortable. I'll be honest, it's uncomfortable in the beginning.
Yeah,
Growth
it is.
sucks.
Especially if you feel, if maybe you've had some experience that shook your confidence or something like that. It's really hard to find that confidence. But honestly, like even for myself, I find that confidence is one of the best things that can ever
Yeah.
happen to your business. It will just bring you so, so, so far. So that's great advice.
Yeah. One of my favorite, like little, like sneaky tips is like stay quiet more and say, I understand. So
Hmm.
with clients, like if you say like, that's not, I'm just coming from the perspective of hairstylists because that's what I know. And I know there's other people listening to this in other beauty businesses, but if someone's like, like I want this and I'll be like, oh, I'm so sorry. That's not possible. And they're like, well, so-and-so said that you could do this. I've had clients say that. Well, so-and-so's down the street said they could get this result. I'd be like, oh, I totally understand that sounds great. Like if I'm not comfortable doing this, but if you feel comfortable going to them or just being like, I understand. Yeah. Instead of, I think we get defensive that because we fear someone's questioning our ability.
Hmm.
So we get defensive when we talk too much.
Oh yeah, I'm totally like that.
We've all done it.
Yeah. So Dawn, I wanted to ask you, like from you were saying before if I could talk to younger Dawn, and you've been in this industry for a while. So you've gone through a lot of things, you've probably made a lot of mistakes and learned from them.
Yeah.
When talking about like giving great experiences to clients and guests, can you think of a story that you had from like younger Dawn where you kind of wish that you had done it differently, or like a big mistake that you made that you kind of look back on and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that?
Yes. So immediately it's funny because when I was thinking about this earlier, I'm like, what is it? Like I have so many failures and I always teach and speak and educate from a place of like, this is where I screwed up. Like I don't want people to think that I just like came out of the womb knowing how to run a business. Like, no, it's through so many failures. But immediately when you say that, I think of this time when I had highlighted this woman's hair and it had totally bled out of the foil. So for anyone who's not a hairstylist, like when it bleeds out of the foil, it like leaves this like weird line mark. And it was like right back here. And I was so insecure and I didn't know what to say. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I just like backcombed her hair over top of it and I didn't let her see the back. Instead of saying like now, like Dawn today would be like, oh, Susan, like it looks like a foil bled and like I just need to quickly fix this. Do you have like an extra 15 minutes or can I bring you back on whatever day? Like it's fine and let me show you and like whatever. But I was so insecure in someone thinking that I was a fraud that I hid things and like they're going to see it later when they go home. There's also another time when a guy said like keep thinning out my hair and all of a sudden I looked and I had like given him a full bald spot like right here and right here. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't tell him. So I like strategically like styled his hair, knowing full well, like when he goes home, he's going to see it. And I was like, I'm going to lose my job. And I was so scared to bring to light or bring people aware to a mistake or a failure or a fault that I had made that can actually build more trust with people. When you go, look, this turned out this way. And
Mm-hmm.
let me find a way to make this right. But I was so insecure that it actually sabotaged me more by not being transparent and communicative.
Yeah.
Communicative? I don't, you know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah, you got it. So it's not even like really a question of skill level at all, because no matter where you are in your career, you will always make mistakes. I think it always comes back to that confidence thing. It's like
Yeah.
you now have the confidence to admit mistakes and tell people no and set the
Mhm.
expectations correctly too.
And it's kind of like that weird, like, you don't want to admit those in the beginning because you fear people aren't going to trust you and see you as the authority. But by admitting it and being open about it, people trust you and see you as the authority more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's talk about the experience of a new client who, let's say, just because I love Facebook and Instagram ads or somewhere else, maybe they find you through social media. Can you talk to us a little bit about little things that you've learned in your career about setting really good experiences, communication, all of that, all the way from like booking with you, to communicating before the appointment, to like what you can do during the appointment and maybe afterwards? I know that's a lot to ask, but maybe some
You might
things
need
that
to remind
you've
me.
learned okay, little like experiences or things that you've learned to just make it really, really great for any new client who books with you.
Yeah. So one of the things that wow, let me start that all over again. I got really good at getting people to book with me, but then all of a sudden in my career, I started realizing like it's not always the right people for me. I'd have people book in and then it's always like a 50-50 chance if a new client's like the right kind of person. And that 50-50 chance, I'm like, well, my regulars can't get in. I'm getting so booked. How can I try and weed out the people that aren't the right fit for me, that aren't the ideal client that I want in my chair? So I actually had a blog. I had a blog on my website that I didn't blog, but it was just a place to communicate with people and a place I could send people to go. And I created this blog post called Dear New Client.
Hmm.
And so when people would land on my website to book, it would say, if you're a new client, like book, go read this because I do things differently. And I started like a custom consultation. So in order, like, and I'm not saying everyone should do this, but in order for me to communicate clearly about how I'm different, I wanted people to read this blog post first to understand how I did things different than most hairstylists. And what it did is it either made people go, oh my gosh, I want to see her more, or she's not the right person for me. And I actually got busier because I weeded out all the wrong people and I started getting all these like awesome people. But for me, it's like asking the right questions and taking time. And what I find is most people don't ask enough questions in the first appointment.
Hmm.
They like the professional assumes what people want. We fill in a lot of the blanks on our own. So I would say like custom consultations, in my opinion, regardless of what industry you're in, like I'm even thinking like spray tans. It's like, someone pale like me comes in for a spray tan and says, I want to go dark. Well, dark can mean a lot of different things
Yeah.
for a pale person. Like dark for me is not dark for my friend who's like 10 shades darker. Right. And so really asking more and more questions. And the way I developed this in my own business for like making sure I don't know if I'm really answering the question properly, but making sure that they're the right people so that they'll be long-term clients is I started watching like why, when I get services done, so like lashes or nails, like what really makes me want to come back to this person,
Mm-hmm.
or where did I feel understood or misunderstood? And so I found that taking an extra, I do 30-minute paid consultations, but just like taking 15 minutes, adding that onto your first appointment and really getting to know the person, people crave to be heard. And that's like the number one feedback I got from clients is like, no one's ever sat down and listened to what I actually wanted. They were in a hurry to
Hmm.
get the foils in or get the color on, and they
Yeah.
didn't actually listen to what I wanted. So take that extra time in the first appointment with someone to sit down and get to know them. And I charged more for my first appointments, and people are willing to spend more if they'll get heard. And then make sure that the next time they're in, you still take time to listen to them. That's what I see. The biggest slippery slope is people wow people at their first appointment, win them over. Oh, I've got a new client today. I better do my hair and makeup a little bit extra because it's a new client.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden they become a regular and you look at your schedule, go, oh, it's my regular. They don't really mind if I'm
I
like
don't need
kind
to
of
impress
missing.
her. She already loves me.
Yeah, and that's where I see so many people losing business, and that's like we were saying, the easiest way to grow your business is to continue to serve the people well that are already there, because it takes, what did you say, like 20% less or 20
Yeah,
200%
it's
less?
something like 10 or 20 times, it's 10 or 20 times less expensive to get
Yeah.
recurring business than to always be searching for new clients.
It's so much less work, less time, less money to keep people in your business. So just continue to show up, and it doesn't take that much effort. Right. So continue to wow them, treat them like for example, I had one client, Danielle, who always said no to sparkling water or a latte. But I continued to ask her every single time. She came in weekly for blowouts. I'm like, Danielle, do you want like a latte or sparkling water? No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. But I always asked her. And then one day she went, yes. And knowing that if I just started to assume, oh, she never takes it, then all of a sudden she's not getting the same experience as this person over here who I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking. So, even if they always say no, it doesn't mean you should stop asking.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I like what you said about taking the time to ask them questions ahead of time. That rarely happens, at least in my experience at salons. And I'm wondering if it has again to do with that confidence thing, is that people think, like, the hairstylist or the spray tanner or the nail tech thinks if I ask too many questions, she's going to think that I don't really know
Mhm.
maybe that's where the assumption is like, I don't want to come across as like, I don't know this stuff and that I need to consult with her. Do you think that that's where it comes from?
100%. And that's where I think like our schools are lacking in teaching and being like, ask questions and clarify with them, like, hey, I'm going to ask you some questions so I can understand how you work better so that I can do my job better. And all it takes is adding that, like, instead of just going, tell me this, tell me this, tell me this, and being like, oh my gosh, they're thinking that I don't know how to do my job. Just let them know, hey, I'm going to go through these series of questions. What this does is it helps me learn a bit more about you. And I know this maybe doesn't seem like it applies to your hair, nails, or tan, but actually, the better I
Mm-hmm.
understand you as a person, the better I could give you the service. And my analogy that I use is like when you go on a first date with someone, you have no idea what they're going to order off the menu, right? But by like the fifth date, and like for me example, like by the fifth date, they're like, Dawn's gonna order nuggets or nachos because that's what I always order.
Because she's
And so
basic like
yeah,
that.
because I'm super basic. It's true.
I
Or
love them
like,
too. No
like
judgment.
what's Dawn going to play on the road trip? Backstreet Boys, duh, boy bands. But like in the beginning, you don't know. And a lot of times we try to guess because we want to appear like yes, I'm like a good professional. And so I know what's best for you instead of going, what would you like? And then the more you get to know someone, yeah, you can make a little assumptions here and there. It's still good to ask because sometimes I don't want to listen to Backstreet Boys. Sometimes I want to listen to NSYNC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes I want chicken fingers. But you still have like a better understanding. So asking those questions and letting them know like the reason why I do things differently. And in my blog post, I said, the reason why I do things differently is to make sure that I understand you. And if this doesn't fit right with you, that's totally okay. But if this does fit right with you, well, hello, I'm so excited to meet you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you quickly about that. You said that you would send anyone who booked with you in their confirmation email, and beforehand, you would send them to that blog post with all that information about how you're different. Did it
Mhm.
mostly have to do with the consultation process that you did, or like how did you explain how you were different?
Yeah. So because about 6 years ago, I started specializing in open air balayage. So I threw out the foils, and because balayage like creates a different look and you don't get I just get different results with it. It's not for everyone. And so
Mm-hmm.
because I specialized in that in extensions, I wanted people to know, like, if you want Clarkson's chunks and stripes, like I'm not your girl. And like, let's save ourselves both the time because I'm not going to do a good job of that. Or if you want a perm or if you want to be platinum blonde, like I'm not the person for you. And I think that's the confidence there where I used to want to be for everyone because it was like this. I always say people pleasing comes from a place of like this empty cup inside of us that it's like, no, it's not about making other people happy. It's about other people being happy with me so I feel worthy. And that's like such a hard thing to admit.
Yeah.
I convinced myself I loved making other people happy. And it's like, no, I loved the praise I received from making other people happy that made me feel worthy. And so when you can stop, I know I'm getting like maybe woo woo, but like when you can stop looking for your self worth externally and you can find it internally, you can show up with so much more confidence. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of therapy. But realizing like me, who I am, my skill, my talent, my wisdom, my knowledge is worth something. And I don't need the praise of other people, and people cannot like their hair, or I can say no, or I can admit that I'm not good at a full global bleach, or I'm not good at precision cutting. I never wanted to admit that before because then I thought it made me less of a person.
Mm.
But being able to speak, like kind of like have the consultation and be like, this is what I do. This is what I offer. If this sounds good to you, great. We are a perfect match. If this isn't, I'm doing you a favor by telling you, please don't book with me.
Yeah, that's
But
amazing.
that came from like that confidence piece.
Yeah, I love that you got a little bit woo woo, only slightly woo woo, but I think that that is so important because, yeah, lack of confidence, people pleasing, you're not the only one who deals with that. It's something that I do and so many other people have. So I really think that doing that like inner work will help us to be better
Mhm.
business owners and to, make our clients happier too, because you're working with the right kind of client.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's hard
so
to admit that it's like, it's not about making other people happy. It's about them telling me I'm wonderful.
yeah. Yeah, I get that. Okay, so we talked about, what you can do within the salon experience, like to really make sure that you're getting their feedback about, what you can do and how it works with what kind of services you provide, all of that. I wanted to also ask you about client feedback because I
Mm.
have been learning how important it is to follow up with clients and students and anyone who does business with me to really understand like what their experience was like and what I can do to improve it. So do you have suggestions or things that you've done in the past to constantly be improving and getting client feedback about their experience?
That's not something that I learned until after I was like less behind the chair. It's something that I wish I would have definitely applied of like, let me know. I think I had done like send out an email being like, let me know what you'd like or what are things that you'd like to see in the salon. But it wasn't until probably like I more went into education that I started to understand the importance of feedback. But because that empty cup of self-worth was inside me, I couldn't handle constructive criticism for the longest
It's
time.
hard. You almost don't
It's
want to hear
so
it.
hard. But like as I've grown as an individual and as a business person, I've learned like if you can ask for, and like, here's the thing. People will give you unsolicited feedback all day long. I get that in my DMs quite a bit. But if you can ask for people and be prepared to read it or have like a third person that can filter it through, because some people might get nasty or some people might be a little bit brash. So if you can have like someone filtering it, that's helpful. But if you can send out an email saying to your clients, like, hey, I'm like looking on my business. I'm wanting to make it better. I'm wanting to serve you better. Could you fill out this quick questionnaire and give them incentive? So it'll take 2 minutes and like you'll be entered in for a free service or something. And just ask them like, what do you love about coming? What do you wish that you could have? Like, what are areas that I could improve on? And like things like that, that can be so helpful because that could be the make or break from someone stopping to come see you because they're like, well, this is awkward. Like she did XYZ. Or if they can actually be like, hey, I felt like last time you kind of just didn't really listen to me. You can be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You could save so many clients, but you just have to be able to kind of put a bubble around and be like, this isn't about you. This is about your business. And don't take this personally. Be open to the feedback. Because I had an exit interview at a salon once when I was going out on my own, and they asked, what could we do better as a business? And if you're going to ask that question, you have to be prepared to hear the feedback. And I remember saying to my boss, my feedback was like, I think you need to be less of a friend to your employees and more of a boss. And she rejected it. And I was like, why'd you ask?
She's like, no, I only meant good feedback, nothing negative.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's hard, but I think it's like a really important thing. And that's something that I do every time I have an enrollment for my program. I send out an email to people who decided not to join and just say, hey, let me know. Like, let me know why you didn't. And I need to be okay hearing why. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah, but that feedback is absolute gold. And it's something that I've been realizing more and more of like, it's nice to have your ego stroked. It's nice to hear all the good things and see the 5-star reviews and all of that. But sometimes the 1-star reviews or that, email
Mhm.
about this is what I didn't like, that can just be the game changer for your business of like, oh my gosh, I didn't
Absolutely.
even realize.
I have a whole podcast episode saying like why a bad review can be good for your business
Hmm.
because like it goes a little bit more deeper into that, but we need to be open. If we only focus on the good and the shiny, that will be like the biggest sabotager of your business.
Yeah.
You'll have this huge blind spot and people you could miss helping, right?
Yeah, I love that. So, Dawn, can we talk about having clients rebook with you? So, obviously, growing that confidence, asking them questions, all of that is so, so, so important. Have you learned anything else about taking that first time client and converting them into like a long-term client that books with you again? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, I love like pre-booking people, but I think the biggest thing is like what I see service providers do is they want to invite someone back, but they don't want to seem like slimy or shady or like that they're going to benefit from it. But we need to remember we're in business, we're in a career, like we're not just doing this for fun. And so when that first client comes in and you've had them in, you've enjoyed them, let them know. Like at the end of the appointment, like say like, oh my gosh, this was so fun. I'm so glad I got to meet you. Just want to let you know a lot of my clients book their next appointment. And like, maybe you don't know when you want to come in, but let's get something on the book so it's there. And instead of like, I see people being like, pre-booking doesn't work because I ask people, do you want to book your next appointment? And they say no. Well, yeah,
Or I
pre-booking
tried and
doesn't.
it didn't work.
Yeah. And so it's not about doing the thing. It's about how you do the thing. And so like give them a compliment, tell them how much you loved and enjoyed them. Let them know, like if you have a referral program, let them know that you book up in advance. And so let's get something for like 3 months from now on the books. And you can always change and reschedule or cancel. But I would hate like, because I enjoyed having you in, I'd hate for you to try to book in and not be able to get in.
Mhm.
And then you're like giving them, it's not about you making money off of them. Obviously they're booking a service, but you're also letting them know in a way that you're not trying to like get something from them. You're doing something for them.
Yeah.
And so that's my biggest thing is like, get them to get them in the habit. I can't tell you how many times, like as someone who teaches this stuff, when I get a service done, I'm waiting for them to ask me to pre-book. And if they don't, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, interesting. And I'm not going to be like, hey, do you want me to coach you right now? Like, that's not my position as getting a service, but I'm like, interesting. Okay. And then I'm the last minute person. If I don't pre-book, like I'll just end up going somewhere else. And so you lose clients if you don't get them into a routine and a system, and you have to stay consistent with it. And it doesn't take a lot of extra work. It just takes being intentional.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you said it's not just about the act of, well, do you want to pre-book or not? It's like how you say it, how you do it. I like that.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to ask you, Dawn, like, because we're going along the journey of like booking and then the experience and then at the end, what about following up with clients after their appointment? Because I have been to a lot of salons and I have an appointment with them, and then I just never hear from them again unless I'm the one that contacts them to book an appointment. First of all, why do you think that this happens, that they just kind of go radio silent? And then second of all, what are some things that you've done to maintain that connection and really be proactive about communicating with clients after their appointment?
I love that you asked this because I'm huge on like beauty providers and service providers think that's they're like, I'm a hairstylist, I'm an esthetician, I'm a spray tanner, I'm a lash tech. You need to be a marketer. If you're going to run a business, even whether you're a commissioner or whether you're an employee or an actual business owner, you still have your business and you need to think with a marketing mind. And the more you can stay top of mind for people, like that's when you're doing your job well. You want like good marketing is when someone thinks of you when you're not in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I really encourage my students to do is like, social media is great, but we all kind of have a love-hate relationship with it, right? Like, I think you can agree with me on that. Like, it's a good tool.
It's so
right?
love-hate. And plus you're also competing with like thousands of other people and your posts get buried. And
yeah, you're competing with other people and there's a freaking algorithm. But guess what doesn't have an algorithm? People's inboxes. And so while I think social media is a good tool and you should still use it, you should be emailing people. And I don't believe in adding more to-dos to people's plates. That's why that's like the big difference my program is like, I'm going to take stuff off your plate. It's like when I talk to my students, I'm like, what would be easier? Write an Instagram caption or write an email to your clients? And they immediately say like, it'd be easier to write an email. Go, great. Write an email to your clients and then pull something out of it and make it a caption. So you don't even have to think about writing a caption.
I definitely do that.
Yeah, you don't have to create more work. So I really believe like have incentives, like have a marketing calendar. And I have this stuff inside of my programs that make it easy for people, but like come up with a special every month and email your clients once a month. And I can't tell you how many students of mine, and it happened for me too. It's like, it's not even that people are taking advantage of the special. It's that you go, oh yeah, I wanted to book an appointment with Dawn. Mm-hmm. And so my students are like, okay, 2 people took my special this month, but I had like 15 new bookings, because you're staying on top of people's mind. But people think, oh yeah, I need to make, like for me, I've been like, I need to make a massage appointment for the last 2 weeks, but I haven't. And then all of a sudden, like the Fairmont Palace, they're sending an email about they're having a special. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I needed to do that. And I wouldn't have done it. I would have kept pushing it off, but then I saw the email. So marketing is huge, however you want to do it, but know that I teach things a little different. Like social media is great, but I don't think it should be, you don't own social media. So I think it's a good additive, but also be connecting with them in their inbox.
Oh, I totally agree.
If social media went away tomorrow, how do we stay in touch with our clients?
Absolutely. I think email is so important. I get your emails and I absolutely love them. Like they're hilarious and I read all of them. So that just goes to show like how well your emails work. People pay attention to them. Like people go in, they read the whole thing. I find that even if you add like a little PS at the end, people will click the link in the PS. They'll reply to something that you said in the PS, which just goes to show like they're reading it top to bottom.
Yeah. And what I do, I call it creating speed bumps in your emails, like bolding things, because if I open an email, it's a whole bunch of text. I'm a skim reader. So I first skim things to see if I'm interested, and then I'll come back and read. So I make speed bumps of like I think a couple of weeks ago, I talked about like how I almost peed my pants in the grocery store. Like I try to keep it entertaining. Yeah. And like I want to make sure that like people just enjoy reading it, even if they don't want to like book with me or, sign up for my program. But in the PS, I always am like, just in case they're the skimmer, like give them a reason, like, oh, just so you know, I'm having a special this month, get it here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. I love, love, love that. Thank you so much, Dawn. One final question for you. What is like one thing, like for 2021, what is one thing that you are going to be really working on in your business and focusing on in your business, just as like either an intention or like a goal or something like that? I just love to like hear what's happening in your life, in your business these
Yeah.
days.
Consistency. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Consistency. I usually pick a word for each year. And I think last year was like embrace the weird. And I feel like I've fully come into like just like stop trying to be someone else and stop trying to be a cookie cutter version of what someone
Yeah.
taught me to
Talk
be
about
and
peeing
start.
your pants in the grocery store.
Exactly. I'm trying to remember like, oh, and I can't, there was another one that like was super inappropriate, mentioned something about, I talked about why I hate the money piece term. And people like loved it, but some people might have gotten offended by it. Right. And being like, you know what, I'm not going to, so that was last year, is like, just be more of, stop trying to do copy and paste what someone has told me to do and start being like, I like this. This is inspirational. I'm going to follow the rules, but I'm going to mold it to who I am
Mm-hmm.
so that it does, so I don't feel robotic anymore. I think for the longest time I felt very robotic and I'm like, I'm doing all the right things. How am I not getting the results? And being like, cause I'm not being me. And so then this year I'm found like, I'm an overcomplicator. Like I loved, like my brain works and like, let's create the most complicated version of this possible instead of simplicity. So consistency and simplicity is my motto for this year.
That's awesome. And I also find it kind of funny because you said in your program, you teach like, don't add on another thing, take away. So it's kind of like you're teaching what you've had to learn in your own life.
Yeah, my program is made for someone who is just like 2 years behind me. Like I'm not that much farther ahead, but I've gotten some things figured out that I can help people. So I want people to know it's not like I like magically, like I'm not a unicorn riding on a rainbow. It's because like I went through this alone and I wish someone would have like given me a break and there was nothing out there.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time, Dawn. I appreciate you. I learned so much from this, and I really hope that this interview has been helpful for anyone who it wants to build their business this year, but wants to do it in a way that like honors them and makes them feel good about it. And I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from our chat is confidence. It's like having that inner
Yeah.
confidence and having that kind of bleed into everything that you do and how your guests experience your business as well. Thank you so much, Dawn. And I know that we're going to chat very soon. So I hope you have a great
Yeah.
rest of
Thanks
your
so
day.
much.
Thank you.